Welcome to our solar information session. We are Solar United Neighbors, an organization that helps folks and businesses go solar together. In our solar information session today, we'll be presenting information on solar technology, solar costs and financing, and the process of getting solar installed. First, we'll provide an overview of who we are and how we got started. Solar United Neighbors is an organization that's a network of people taking control of our energy by installing solar and generating our own electricity. We originally started in 2007 when our executive director fielded a request by her son, then in middle school, to install solar on her home. They found at the time, living in DC, that going solar was not easy. It was complex, the costs were high, and there was very little consumer-facing information available at the time. Our executive director, Anya Schoolman, looked at her son and said, if we're gonna go solar, we're gonna take the whole neighborhood solar together. It makes sense to pool time and resources and to make the greatest impact in terms of solar installations at once. From that moment forward, the concept of going solar in a group or solar co-op was born. Going solar together helped erase the issue of information sharing. Folks could count on each other to share information about the best installers, pricing, incentives, and technology available on the market. At that time, in the original solar co-op in Anya Schoolman's neighborhood, 50 homes went solar. Fast forward to where we are today, we've now taken over 2,000 homes and businesses solar, honed this solar co-op model, and brought it to other states. Under our previous organization's name, Community Power Network, we administered on-the-ground state programs in 6 states: Maryland, DC, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, and Florida. Moving forward, we have changed our name to Solar United Neighbors and work to expand our programs into more states across the country, still helping individuals and businesses go solar through our co-op model. Moving on to the content of this presentation, we'll be providing you with information on 3 topic areas today. The first being solar technology, the second being our solar co-op process, and the third being solar economics. To begin, we'll discuss solar technology. What goes on your roof and how does it work? Within the scope of our solar co-ops, we help homes and businesses install solar photovoltaic panels, or solar PV for short. Solar PV converts the energy in the sun's rays to electricity. You may have heard of solar thermal technologies. They convert the sun's rays into thermal energy that can be used to heat water. But our co-ops are only for solar PV panels that are used to produce electric current. So, solar PV panels are made out of silicon cells. When the sun's rays hits those panels, they excite the electrons within the silicon cells, generating electric current. The unit of measurement of the electricity generating capacity of each panel is called a watt. 1,000 watts is known as a kilowatt. A panel's wattage rating depends on a host of different factors, but the wattage of a typical solar panel is anywhere from 250 to 300 watts. Solar panels typically are about 3 feet by 5 feet in size and are wired together to form an array. Individual panels sometimes are called modules, and then together, again, they form an array, sometimes called a solar system. Now, while the size of the system is measured in watts, or again, kilowatts, the electricity that's produced by your solar system is measured in kilowatt hours, which is written as kWh. Now, kilowatt hours might sound familiar to you because you see that measurement every month on your electricity bill. We pay for electricity per kilowatt hour, in the same way that your solar will produce electricity in units of measurements of kilowatt hours. The amount of kilowatt hours a particular kilowatt of installed solar will produce varies across the country as solar radiation varies across the country. Typically, though, you can count on 1 kilowatt of solar producing about 1,300 kilowatt hours of solar annually. Now, what are the parts involved in a solar system? Obviously, we have the solar panels, whose wattage, again, will vary according to manufacturer and rating. How do they connect to your roof, though? For that, you'll need a racking system. The racking system consists of rails, these aluminum rails here, that the panels will actually attach onto. And then those rails will be fastened into your roof using a host of different technologies that I'll get into here in a second. Those racking systems are typically wind capacity rated to withstand hurricane force winds, and that'll be enforced by your local permitting agency. The third piece of important technology in a solar array or solar system is the inverter. So the electricity that's produced by your solar panels that flows off of your roof when the sun is shining comes in the form of direct current, or DC. The electricity that we use in our homes and our appliances is AC. So the inverter technology converts solar electricity from direct current, DC, to alternating current, AC, so that it can be used by your home and appliances. Diving a little deeper into the question of how solar connects directly onto your roof. There are different types of connections for different roof types. Most typically, the racking system will be attached directly into the rafters of your roof. Whether you have a tile roof or asphalt shingles, those racking to rafter connections will be waterproofed using flashings, or small metal sheets that slide under the tile or shingle at the connection point to shed off any water. This helps waterproof your roof. Panels are then fastened directly onto the racking system and secured into place. What if you don't have a tile or asphalt shingle roof? What if, for example, you have a standing seam metal roof? The process for standing seam metal roofs is slightly different, if not a little easier, actually. Racking systems can connect directly onto the standing seam line of the roof without any need for roof penetrations. Then the solar panels are fastened directly onto that racking system, as you can see here in this photo. For flat roofs, panels are most commonly mounted onto the roof via beams that span the parapet walls of the building. Parapet walls are those load-bearing walls at either end of the building. You can see here the beams that are spanning the two parapet walls in this example. Panels then fasten directly onto those beams. The takeaway is that regardless of your roof structure or design, your installer will be able to design a system that can securely mount onto your roof. So once the electricity flows off of your panels and passes through the inverter so that it can be converted from direct current to alternating current, the electricity will flow through your meter into your home, into your electrical panel. For most homes, the interconnection of your solar panels to your electrical panel is very simple and does not require any sort of upgrade. For homes with outdated electrical panels and low amp service, installers will recommend getting an electrical service upgrade that can come at an upcharge of anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s, depending on your home's electrical panel design. Again, though, this is very infrequently required, and in most cases, your current electrical panel is sufficient to interconnect with solar. So at this point, you're probably considering, is my roof good enough for solar? And here are some of the considerations you'll want to take into account when asking yourself that question. First is the direction that your roof faces. Traditionally, solar has been installed on directly south-facing roofs. Due to technology and efficiency improvements over the last couple of decades, solar can now be installed on roofs that faced anywhere from due east all the way to due west. So you can have an east-facing roof, a southeast-facing roof, a west-facing roof, a southwest-facing roof, or a due south-facing roof and still install solar. The only direction you'll want to avoid installing solar on is a due north-facing roof. The second consideration is shading. Obviously, you don't want a lot of shading on your roof to install solar. While you can physically install panels on your roof regardless of any shading cast by nearby objects, shading will drastically reduce the amount of electricity produced by your system, which makes your investment, erodes the competitiveness of that investment. Now, systems can be installed on roofs that have a little bit of shading at certain points in time during the day, and your installer will be able to optimize the design of your system so that it's not unduly impeded by that shading. But should your roof have any massive portions of it shaded across the entire time frame of the day, your roof is most likely not appropriate for a rooftop solar installation. Now, the third consideration is the amount of space that you have available on your roof. Typically, for a solar system to make financial sense in terms of investment and payback period, you'll need about 200 contiguous square feet of solar to install panels upon. 200 square feet of roof space, that is. Now, an important thing to note there is that solar works best when the panels can be mounted directly next to each other and wired into a single system. If the panels have to be broken up into multiple different arrays that focus or are installed on different portions of the roof, that can impede the efficiency of your system. And while it's technically possible to install those types of systems, it's best to install the panels on a single roof plane so that the installation can be contiguous. So here's an overview of how all of those different three parts works together. I'll take you through step by step. Step one, the sun's rays strike your solar panels and excite the electrons within those silicon cells of the panels, producing electrical current. That electrical current, as we already noted, flows off the panels in the form of DC, so it therefore has to be routed through your inverter here, denoted by this number 2 symbol, where it's converted to AC, or alternating current. The electricity then will flow through your electric meter, which is right here, and directly into your home, where it will be used immediately by any appliances that you may have running. The technical term for those appliances and that electrical demand is called load. So if your home or business has any load at any point in time that solar electricity is being generated, the electricity will be flowing into your home and consumed by that load at that time. If you have more electricity being produced by the sun's rays than what you're consuming in your home or business at any given time, the excess will flow back out through your meter and onto the local electric grid. But what happens with that electricity that flows out of your home and onto the grid? Do you get credit for it? How do you get compensated for it? That's where net metering comes into play. Net metering is the policy that allows for the flow of electricity to and from your home. This is basically the policy that makes solar a sound financial investment because it gives you credit for all of the electricity you produce, whether it's consumed on site or exported to the grid. In moments where generation of solar electricity is or outpaces your electricity consumption, excess electricity will flow out through your electric meter and onto the grid. At the end of every billing cycle, thanks to net metering, you'll then receive a credit on your bill for any of that excess electricity production that you exported to the grid. Your monthly electric bill will then be calculated according to this equation. The total amount of electricity you consumed, whether it was solar electricity or electricity from your utility, minus the amount of electricity you produced from your solar. In this sense, solar allows you to lower your electric bills by the entire amount of electricity that's produced by your panels. A quick note on net metering is that utilities are required by law to let you net meter. Net metering is a policy enacted by state legislatures. So if your state has a net metering policy on the books, all utility customers are guaranteed access to net metering. One thing to note about solar is that while the sun might always be shining at certain points in time during the day, your solar panels will automatically shut down if the grid goes out. So in moments where there's a power or grid outage, your solar panels do shut off. And that's a safety mechanism to protect any utility lines people that might have to go out and service that electric grid once it's shut down. If the utility is sending out their linesmen to service a downed wire and your panels are accidentally backfeeding electricity onto the grid, that can pose a safety hazard to those electricity workers. And so states have implemented regulations that mandate the shut off of your panels in moments of grid outages. If you'd like to have power and harness your solar electricity even when the grid is down, you'll need to connect your solar system to a battery to store that electrical production. Batteries are still relatively expensive at present, although prices are falling dramatically over the last couple years to a decade. We typically see at the residential scale of installations that pairing a solar PV system with a battery adds about 1/3 of the total cost onto the system and dramatically decreases the financial viability of those systems for folks. Individuals do choose to go solar and install batteries, again, though it is relatively cost prohibitive still to this day. So a couple frequently asked questions about how all of these technology pieces fit together and affect your home or business. What warranties do the systems come with? So for solar, there are 3 types of warranties that you will get as a solar investor. The first type of warranty is a product warranty offered by the manufacturer of any of the system components. So that includes a warranty offered by your solar panel manufacturer and a warranty offered by your inverter manufacturer. The warranties in these cases cover the product integrity themselves. So if your panel comes with a faulty wiring internally or a faulty soldering, that'll be covered under your product warranty. The manufacturer then is held to replacing that product as long as it falls within your warranty period. The second warranty is what's called a power production warranty. Now this comes also from your solar panel manufacturer and guarantees that the electrical output of that panel will be a certain percentage of its original nameplate capacity by the end of its lifespan. In most cases, panels come with a power production warranty of at least 80% by year 25. What that means is that the manufacturer is guaranteeing that that panel will be producing a minimum of 80% of its original nameplate capacity at the 25th year of its life. This warranty essentially ensures that your panels and your system at large will last for 25 years. And the third warranty that comes with your system is not offered by the manufacturers themselves, but by the installer or contractor who installs your system. This is a labor warranty that they offer that covers any of the labor or craftsmanship that went into your installation. Most labor warranties do cover the roof penetrations associated with your installation. So should there be any unfortunate leaks associated with your installation, that would be covered under your labor warranty. Labor warranties do vary widely across the country from market to market, so it's always good to ask your installer how long their labor warranty is up front. The next question is about homeowners insurance. Does installing solar increase your homeowners insurance premiums? And the short answer is that in most cases, it does not. We believe that it should not. Data is pointing nationally to the fact that it does not. So if you go solar and see a spike in your homeowners insurance premiums, we encourage you to shop around to other homeowners insurance companies to make sure that you're not being unduly treated because of your solar. In all cases, though, it's a good idea to tell your homeowners insurance provider upfront that you're installing solar so that they can appropriately assess your premiums prior to the installation. And in some rare cases, there are homeowners insurance companies that offer discounted premiums to owners of renewable energy and solar systems in order to comply with any green or climate commitments they may have. Regarding maintenance for the system, solar is an incredibly low maintenance investment. There are no moving parts, and unlike any sort of combustion engine, like a car or a furnace, there's nothing that can break on the mechanics side. Once your panels are installed on your roof, there's really nothing you need to do to upkeep them. Natural precipitation patterns will clean them. It's never recommended that you get onto your roof to clean your panels. And even in moments of snow or rainfall or hail, your panels will be warranted to withstand that type of weather event without any sort of intervention from your installation company to keep them up throughout those events. How long do your systems last? Well, again, their electrical output is warranted in most cases for a minimum of 25 years. We tell people to think of solar as a long-term investment in which your panels will last anywhere from 25 to 30 years. Another question we get a lot is, will my homeowners association allow me to install solar on my home? Now, this answer will vary depending on what state you live in, but most states have laws on the books that prevent HOAs from denying their members the right to go solar. In a lot of cases, HOAs can still intervene in the design of your system to change any aesthetics according to their HOA internal practices. But again, in many states, they are prevented from strictly prohibiting you from going solar. Same with your homeowner's insurance. We do recommend that anyone who lives in an HOA speak with their HOA board or representation prior to going solar. Let them know preemptively your plans to go solar so that you can work together should there be any sort of collaboration to be had on the installation and design. Lastly, there are some restrictions that apply to solar installations if you do live in a historic district. Installers will be aware of those and will have in-staff capacity to handle any historic district permitting. In most cases in historic districts, solar panels, the restriction that solar panels might face relates to whether they're visible from the street or not. But again, your solar installer will be familiar with those restrictions and those regulations for historic districts and will work with you to make sure that their design complies with any of those standards on the books. So now that you understand how solar works, we'll quickly talk about how our solar co-ops are administered, and then we'll get into solar financing and the costs of going solar. So solar co-ops are groups of homeowners that gather together to go solar together and use their bulk purchasing power to secure competitive installation costs and count on the guidance and consumer advocacy of us, Solar United Neighbors, throughout the process. Some of the benefits of going solar in a co-op are getting really the best value on installation and support throughout the process. Again, by going solar with a group of homes in a concentric geographic area, you can secure some more competitive installation costs and have someone to hold your hand throughout the process and advocate on your behalf to the installer. Another benefit of the co-op is that it connects you with fellow solar enthusiasts in your area. Sometimes it's easy to look around and not see solar in your neighborhood or in your region, and what going solar with a co-op does is help you meet that community of fellows who are interested in solar, installing solar themselves, and can help guide you through the process. Lastly, going solar with our co-op connects you to the larger solar movement across your state and across the country. There are now over 1 million solar homes in the United States, and solar homeowners across the country are joining together to protect their investments and fight for stronger solar policies. If any of that is interesting to you, joining a solar co-op is really the first step to plugging yourself into that burgeoning solar movement. So this is a timeline of how our typical co-op is administered. I'll walk you through all of the steps and tell you some of the mile markers that you'll hit along the way. So first, when we launch a co-op, the first step that you, the prospective solar owner, would take would be to learn about the co-op and what it means to go solar. You can do that by attending one of our information sessions in the area or visiting our website, www.solarunitedneighbors.org. On the website, you'll find a host of information, even deeper information relating to solar technology and manufacturing, to solar financing, to, again, the solar process, installation, and the co-op. So once you learn about solar and decide, I think I'd like to join the co-op, you can sign up online by visiting your co-op's website. Do note that there is a sign-up deadline to participate in our co-op. Typically, that sign-up deadline falls about month 5 or month 6 after the co-op officially launches. You'll find your sign-up deadline clearly delineated on your co-op's webpage. Just make sure that you sign up before that deadline and you'll be able to participate in the group. We like to note that signing up for our co-op is free of charge. Anyone can do so, and there's no obligation to purchase panels or go solar just by virtue of signing up. Our goal for our co-ops is to help people learn about solar and go solar together. We don't mandate that you actually purchase a system at the end. So once you sign up, you'll provide us with information about your property, about your plans, and any sort of desires or restrictions you have on your system, and some information about your preferences as they relate to an installer that you'd like to work with. We'll use that information about installer preferences later in the installer selection process. After you sign up, you can help us grow the size of the co-op by sharing the co-op with your friends and neighbors. We, Solar United Neighbors, will do similar work by building strategic partnerships in the co-op area to help spread the word and bring new folks into the fray. So the group will grow organically over time over the first couple of months, and once it reaches a carrying capacity of at least 30 members, Solar United Neighbors issues a competitive RFP on behalf of the co-op to area installers. That kicks off the installer selection process through which we run a competitive bidding process that helps co-op members connect with the most competitively priced and robust offerings from installers in their area. We issue an RFP and ask that installers bid to serve the group with a base price and delineate information about their company, the materials that they offer, the warranty and the warranties they offer, and so on and so forth. We, Solar United Neighbors, do the due diligence of reviewing bids, calling references, checking licensing, equipment, and warranties, and speaking with those installers to make sure they have the capacity and the bandwidth in-house to serve the group. We then take all of that information, formulate it for our co-op members, and give it back to the group. We help co-op members then come together and make a group decision about what single installer they want to work with. It's important to note that Solar United Neighbors does not choose the installers for our co-ops. Rather, we act as technical advisors that help our individual co-op members select the installer they think is best for the group at large. So once the installer is selected, again, that typically happens around month 3 of the co-op, we'll connect our individual co-op members with that installer, and at that point, the individual co-op members will be able to begin the solar process directly with that installation company. That includes scheduling a site visit at which the installer comes out to the home, checks the home, and works with the homeowner to design a system. Homeowners will then receive a customized proposal from that installer, again, custom to their home, but based on the group co-op pricing. That ensures equity across all of our co-op members and peace of mind that you as a co-op member are getting market fair and competitive pricing. Then you'll be able to consider whether the proposal makes sense for your home, and if you're ready to move forward with solar at the time, you'll be able to sign a contract with that installer. Once you sign a contract, the installer will begin the installation process, which involves finalizing the design of your system, ordering all equipment, mounting the system to your roof, and then going through all of the permitting and interconnection with your utility company to get your system up and running. That process can take anywhere from 2 to 4 months, depending on your jurisdiction, your utility, and your general region. Finally, once everyone in the group who has signed a contract with the installer has had their system installed, we throw a party to celebrate the successes of our individual co-op members and the group at large. A couple quick takeaways about the solar co-op process are that, again, our co-op members themselves are choosing the installer that they'd like to work with. The group chooses one installer to serve everyone within the group, but that's not a decision us, Solar United Neighbors, makes. It's a decision that the members themselves make. Upon signing up for the co-op, recall that individual co-op members are able to indicate specific installer criteria. They can indicate preferences related to price, equipment offerings, warranties, and local natures. For example, whether the company hires from the local workforce or offers workforce development and training programs in the local community. We then work with the co-op to make sure that all of these indicated preferences are reflected in the final installation decision and represented even if those individuals cannot be present for the actual installer selection meeting. So that's an overview of the co-op. Again, it's a self-contained 8-month process in which you're going solar on your individual home, but receiving a group discount, competitive pricing, and the peace of mind of working with us, Solar United neighbors, and fellow homeowners to go solar together. Now on to perhaps the most interesting part, how much is this gonna cost and what does that investment look like over time? So a few considerations to keep in mind as we're looking at the economics of going solar. Solar, unlike a car or a meal out or any other retail product, is actually priced by the unit of electricity it produces, not the entire system. So whereas when you buy a car, you pay for the entire car, not every mile that you'll drive in the car, solar, you're buying every unit of electricity capacity that it has, as opposed to a system at large. So instead of paying for panels, you're paying for watts. That means that when you're looking at solar pricing, you'll find that most companies denote or delineate their pricing in terms of dollars per watt. Another thing to keep in mind is the lifetime of this investment. Again, solar panels are warranted to last anywhere from 25 to 30 years, so consider this a long-term investment. Again, solar has no moving parts, it's relatively maintenance-free and should not cause any operations or maintenance headaches anywhere along that 25 to 30-year lifetime. Now, two financial factors that will very much affect your investment and the recuperation of that investment are the residential utility rate you pay for your electricity at present and how fast that residential utility rate is rising. So typically, on average across the country, homeowners pay anywhere from 10 to 14 cents per kilowatt hour of electricity they buy from their utility. Keep that figure in mind for when we go over the actual costs here in a moment. The second element that I just talked about was rising electricity prices. Oops. On average, we're seeing electricity prices rise across the country 2% every year. Going solar locks you into the price that you pay to go solar now, and at that cost, you'll generate electricity for the next 25 years. So going solar really helps you hedge against those rising electricity costs. In terms of equipment and material costs, the cost of those hard parts of solar have dropped 90% since the 1970s when the market at the residential level first opened. The remainder, the costs that have not fallen with time are such things as soft costs, which cover things like permitting and customer acquisition and education. And it's really those costs that help us to secure the most competitive pricing through our co-op. Those education and customer acquisition costs are what we help installers avoid by going with the co-op. We're providing installers a list of educated, interested customers, and that's from those savings that those installers are able to offer their competitive group pricing to our co-op members. Another thing to keep in mind is that solar is no longer a boutique product or a niche product that's installed in only a few regions or a few income brackets. Again, there are over 1 million homes in the country that have installed solar that span all income brackets and all states and counties and municipalities across the country. We know though solar can still be daunting, and that's why ultimately we exist as an organization to help real folks invest in solar and switch to solar for their home or business. So here is our sample cost breakdown of what it means to go solar. I'll walk through it line item by line item and catch you up to what each of the headings mean. So first of all, I'd like to cue you into the two columns here on the right. On the left, you'll see a 4 kilowatt column. Remember, solar is sized by the wattage. So 4 kilowatts or 4,000 watts indicates the size of the system. That's typically a smaller residential system. 8 kilowatts or 8,000 watts is typically a larger residential system. So we offer these two numbers not as the only two sizes of solar systems you can install, but rather as a range. Your cost of going solar will fall somewhere within that range, most likely. So our average solar co-op pricing that we see in the region is about $2.75 per watt of solar. Again, solar is priced by the watt or that unit of capacity, not by the entire system. So for a 4 kilowatt system or 4,000 watt system, the total upfront cost would be $11,000. And we arrive to that by multiplying the $2.75 a watt cost by the size of the system, 4,000 watts. Similarly, for an 8 kilowatt system or 8,000 watt system, the upfront cost would be about $22,000 to our co-op members. Now, there is a federal incentive for all residential and commercial homeowners who go solar, and that is the 30% federal tax credit. It's a credit that you'll receive off of the federal tax burden that you pay, and it's worth 30% of the cost of the system. So you can calculate that by multiplying 0.3 by your initial upfront cost. So in this case, the value of that 30% tax credit would be $3,300. And in the case of a larger system, it's a little much or a little more, it's $6,600. That federal tax credit, as a note, comes off, it's a credit off of the taxes you pay in the fiscal year that you installed your solar. So if you install solar at the beginning of the fiscal year, you'll receive that tax credit at the next true up of your taxes, so the next year, the next fiscal year. And I'll cover particular financing options to help you bridge that potential temporal scale in a moment here with something called a solar bridge loan. But it's important to note that the tax credit, again, is 30% of your federal taxes, and should 30% off your federal taxes, and should that 30% value of your system exceed the amount that you owe in federal taxes, any sort of surplus can be rolled over to subsequent tax years. So once you subtract the value of that 30% federal tax credit off of the initial upfront cost of going solar, you'll arrive at this yellow line here for both the smaller system example and the larger system example. So these two figures right here, 7,700 and 15,400, represent that net cost after you factor in the amount of reductions in federal tax credit or federal taxes that you would pay. So that represents basically the amount of cash you have to put out to go solar. The way solar makes you money over time and saves you money over time comes down to the electricity that you're not purchasing from your utility company. So recall that every unit of electricity you produce from solar is one less unit you have to buy from your utility company, thanks to net metering. So as you add up those electricity bill savings over time, that's what helps you pay off your initial investment and actually make money over the life of your system. So taking into consideration the average cost of electricity across the country, at the end of your first year of going solar, your average electricity bill savings from your solar production will be about $750 for a smaller system. For a larger system, that year one savings bumps up to about $1,500. 10 years down the line, you can see what those savings look like for the small system example and the large system example. And 25 years down the line, so essentially at the end of the lifetime of your system, you're looking at your total electricity savings as being about $23,000 for a small system and $45,000 for a large system. So once you subtract out your initial upfront cost of going solar from those savings figures, you'll get the actual profit, the net profit of what your investment is. So as you can see, when it comes to the economics over the lifetime of your system, there's an upfront outlay of cash associated with actually purchasing your system, and then you recuperate that investment over time through your electricity bill savings. And then once you pay off your system, any savings associated from that solar are a net profit to you. Typically, across the country, we see that solar homeowners and business owners are paying off their systems anywhere from 4 years to 10 or 11 years after they purchase their system. So that still leaves almost half, if not more, of the system lifetime once you pay off the system to be accumulating net profit from the electricity produced by your panels. Now, there are unique financing options available to go solar that don't involve the direct outlay of cash in the full amount at the outset of your system life. You can take a standard loan out from your bank. You can pursue a home equity line of credit to finance the upfront cost of going solar. We see that being one of the most common ways that people seek financing for their solar. There are also what are called solar loans and bridge loans. Now, bridge loans are loans that are specifically designed to cover the time delta between when you paid upfront to go solar and when you received the 30% federal tax credit the next year or the next couple of months as soon as that federal tax return comes to you. So that particular bridge loan product helps you cover that time gap. Solar loans are particular loan products designed for solar purchases. There are companies that offer solar loans. Solar United Neighbors does not endorse any particular solar loan product, but we do have a host of information about different product offerings under the solar loan umbrella on our website, solarunitedneighbors.org. Now, this is all assuming that you're owning your system, owning all of its electrical output and all of the hard materials associated with your system. There is the option in some states to lease your system or to capture the solar electricity production through what's called a third-party ownership model. Before defining what that means, I will say this option is not available in every state at the residential level. Some states have allowed these third-party ownership models, some states have not. To check whether these are available in your state, visit solarunitedneighbors.org. We lay it out quite clearly and project which states you'll be able to go solar through a third-party ownership model in and which states still do not offer that. So the most common form of third-party ownership is what's called a power purchase agreement, or PPA for short. Under this arrangement, a third-party company owns the system, so it owns the panels, the racking system, the inverter, all of the technology associated with the investment. They own it, and you contract for and pay for only the electricity that flows off the system. So under this type of arrangement, again called a PPA, you'll pay a monthly bill to the owner of that solar array for the electricity it produces, and you'll pay your regular electricity bill to your utility company for any sort of excess utility power that you have to purchase. What's really nice about power purchase agreements, however, is that they require no upfront cash. Because you're not actually owning your system and having to pay for its installation and upkeep, there's no original outlay of cost. You'll just pay month by month for the electricity produced by those panels. This graphic breaks down those two models of ownership. On the right here, you'll see what your costs and your long-term investment looks like for a pure ownership model, so in which you actually purchase your system and own it for its lifetime. And on the left, you'll see that PPA, or power purchase agreement model, represented, in which you don't own the system and you don't outlay any cash upfront for the system, but rather you just pay month by month for the electricity produced by the system. So on the right, for this full one-time purchase, aka ownership model depiction, you'll see that without going solar, so indicated here by the blue line, this is what you'd be paying for all electricity from your utility company. Those costs rise over time, over the lifetime of your system, so about 20 years. Again, this wouldn't be having a system because this assumes you're just paying for electricity from your utility company. Now, with solar, this investment is demonstrated by the green line here. So it does obviously require a cash outlay, which is depicted by this delta here. But once you do purchase your solar, you're locked into a very, very stable cost of electricity over time. Again, your original, the amount that you pay for solar up front That's the amount that solar is going to cost for its lifetime, for its system lifetime. The only potential increase in your total energy spendings would come from any excess electricity that you have to purchase from your utility company. Obviously, that would still be affected by utility electricity rising costs, and that's what is driving this slight increase here. But either way, you'll see that by the end of the lifetime of the system, you'll be saving much more money having installed solar than if you were to be purchasing all of your electricity from your utility company. Now on the left here, again, this model depicts a third-party ownership solar array. So this blue line still depicts what your costs would be if you were purchasing all of your electricity from your utility company. And again, those costs are rising because utility energy costs rise every year. With solar, though, under a PPA model or a third-party ownership model, there's no upfront cash cost because you're just purchasing the electricity, not the system itself. And those costs do rise over time, much more than if you were to purely own your system. PPA and third-party companies do have a price escalation in their contract with you every year, but that price escalation should be less than the escalating costs of utility electricity. So while your costs of solar electricity will be rising with time, they'll be rising at a much slower rate than your utility electricity costs will rise, and that'll give you savings by the end of the lifetime of your system. The point here to note is that the savings are much larger with an ownership model over the lifetime of its system than they are if you're purchasing that electricity through a PPA or third-party ownership model. However, it does require that large outlay of cash at the outset to be able to own the system. So now you know all about solar technology, the costs of going solar, the lifetime investment and payback of going solar, and what it means to go solar through our co-op. We hope you enjoyed this information, and if you're ready to join the co-op, you can sign up online.